Good evening, everyone. I'm Daniel,
And I'm Maya.
and tonight we're taking a little bit of a break from gaming to focus on something else. You see, in addition to playing games that we normally do, we also like to play some tabletop games, and one of those tabletop games is Pathfinder, which is a version of Dungeons and Dragons. So I run a Pathfinder First Edition campaign with my friends, and we're going to have our next session on this Saturday. So I thought it would be kind of interesting, a little bit different today, to go through a process of a character build idea that Maya is interested in. See, Maya likes to play spellcasters, particularly wizards. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of a character build, first edition Pathfinder character build, of a wizard type character that has unlimited healing potential. What I mean by that is that this wizard character build can produce unlimited healing. There's no limit to how many hit points they could heal for the day. Granted, it may not be amazing healing, but it's unlimited. So throw out your wands of cure light wounds. We can use this character to do all the healing that we desire. Okay, so we're going to go through the entire process of that character build. So what do you think about this character build?
So I think it's interesting. I usually like to play more offensive wizards. So this is a change for me. It's also the only time ever that somebody else is... It's a new thing for me. It's a new thing for me. Basically, Mr. Paladin Sir insisted that I play something other than wizard number 27.
Well, that's to say that in most campaigns, she plays the exact carbon copy elven wizard.
I love them.
She loves them, but I figured, well, let's just try to change things up with this campaign. So
I'm I'm going out of my comfort zone because I really love wizards. I really love arcanists.
And she'll still have that capability.
Yes.
Just it's going to be a lot more utility here again
Yes.
because of all the healing that this character build can do. Anyways, side note, it is March 8th, so happy International Women's Day also, by the way.
I didn't think you remembered, but thank you.
So
I appreciate it.
we'll be building this character. So let's get started. Okay. So you could see here that what we have done is that we have our notepad with all of our notes, how we're going to make this build work, all here that we're going to be working on. So let's start off with our stats, because that's pretty important. So again, I'm the GM for the campaign, so the way our campaign works is that everyone has the same ability score array, really. This is before all racial modifiers. The idea here is that by giving everyone the same ability scores, we can also ensure that everything is consistent. As you could see here, we have an 18, 16, 14, 12, 10, 8. This gives everyone at least one 18, which is that one desirable stat, which most players like, and one kind of less than ideal stat, an 8. The reason why I like to do this is so that it kind of encourages group play, right? You're going to have to put that 8 somewhere, and that's going to try to make you focus on more teamwork for the players so that they can kind of compensate for your overall weaknesses, right? So for Maya, most likely she'll toss that 8 in strength, which is a common dump stat for wizards, but we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so let's talk about the build itself. It is an unlimited healing wizard build. So I originally got this build idea from the Pathfinder RPG subreddit. It was posted by a user, Fitzwolf Farseer, who I originally got the idea from. And I'm basically taking the idea from that user and kind of making it something that I think is more likable for Maya's standpoint. Okay? So the core concept of the build focuses on a cross-blooded sorcerer. Okay? It focuses on 2 bloodline arcanas in particular. The first one is the Phoenix bloodline, right? This is the core requirement of the build. So once you have this particular build, this is the core of it. You need this Phoenix bloodline in order to make it work. So what this bloodline does, the Phoenix bloodline, is that whenever your character casts any spell that deals fire damage, what you can do instead is convert that fire damage into healing, right? So if you're thinking about a sorcerer tossing fireballs, you can instead have that fireball deal no damage and instead deal half that amount in terms of healing for all living characters. Okay, so that's the core concept of the build. Now, where we can turn this into unlimited healing is with an additional bloodline. Now, this is where we're starting to approach something called archetype territory, because a standard sorcerer would not be able to really take that. You can't take 2 bloodlines with a typical sorcerer class. So we'll need to use a special archetype class, or archetype of a sorcerer, to get 2 bloodlines. So the archetype in question is called the cross-blooded sorcerer, right here. Now the benefit here is that you will be able to take 2 bloodlines at the cost of reduced spellcasting capability. We're only going to do a 1-level dip in this so that we can take advantage of the build for something else. So your choices are, when you use this combination, Phoenix is one of the bloodlines you need to take, but your other options are either the Element bloodline, which has a similar theme, or the Ifrit bloodline, which also lets you convert energy damage. The benefit of these additional bloodlines is that whenever you cast any spell that deals energy damage, you could convert it into fire. And that's the goal for this second bloodline, right? So in Maya's build standpoint, what we're going to do is that we're going to go with the Element bloodline as our second option. By combining these two, any spell with energy damage that she casts, she could convert that into fire damage, and then thanks to her Phoenix bloodline, she could then convert that damage into the healing aspect. So now, whereas previously if it was just the Phoenix bloodline, you would only be able to do things like Burning Hands and turn that into healing, or Fireball. Now what we can do with the combination of the Elemental bloodline, we can now take the Lightning Bolt and convert that into healing, because essentially what we're doing is we're doing Lightning Bolts, converting that into fire, and then converting that into healing. Okay, so where does the unlimited healing aspect come into play with that? So I'll show you. Once you have that cross-blooded level in Sorcerer, the way that becomes into unlimited healing is the combination of those two. With your Cantrip spell, Acid Splash. So if we take a look here at our 0-level spell, or what is it? It's not Acid Splash. It is or Ray of Frost, or really Jolt. Acid Splash is something else then. I'm thinking of, no, Acid Splash. Yeah. Okay, so Acid Splash, Ray of Frost, regardless of which one you want to use, the idea here is that you're taking a elemental damage spell. In this case, we'll pick Acid Splash. Thanks to our Elemental bloodline, we could convert that into fire damage. It deals 1d3 damage, okay? And then our Phoenix bloodline converts half of that into healing. So at a bare minimum, yes, you're only doing 1 point of healing every time you cast this. It's not amazing, but it's unlimited. So you could think about that in terms of usability and utility for your party. You could cast this until you're blue in the face. You could go around and heal everyone in town of all of their ailments. Granted, it's going to take a little bit of time because it's a single cast per hit point, but again, think about that. For your group, that may be really, really useful for your group, your campaign. So that's the premise of the build, is that first level of cross-blooded Sorc, those two bloodline combinations gives us that unlimited healing capability.
Quick question, how long do Aasimar live?
I believe they live 150 years. Yeah. You're not like long life elven lineage. We could check.
Not even if I'm half elf?
No, because you're not really an elf, you just look like an elf.
That's
right? In terms of your actual age, let's take a look. Pathfinder SRD. So the D20 Pathfinder SRD I think might have an easier time explaining it. Age. Let's just take a look at the other races.
I I like that elves live to 700 and more.
So Azamar, let's see how long. Well, they're trained in 68, so I would put them, I think, around 150, 200 years total.
Yep, good.
Maximum age. Anywho. Okay, so that's our first step, is that our first level, we're making Maya's character at level 3. So level 3 in terms of her wizard build. So the first level is going to be our cross-blooded sorcerer with the Phoenix and Elemental build. Now, as far as race is concerned, this isn't race dependent, but from Fitzwolf Farseer's original build, that user selected Azamar as a flavorful race. Hey! Hey, Moogle. That made it a little bit flavorful because, again, they didn't select Azamar. They selected Samsarin. And Samsarins are related. They have this whole like reincarnation mechanic, so that makes it a lot easier and cooler to add a lot of flavor into this. But this type of unlimited healing build, it doesn't have any racial components as a requirement. So this is the primary part of it. Everything after that is just icing on the cake. Okay? So what Maya liked, though, is that we have the Azamar race. Particularly for flavor, she's going with the Peri-blooded sub-race for Azamar. Emberkin is what they're known as. So if we want a image of what that looks like, if we could just look at, let's do Pathfinder Peri-blooded. You get an idea. So they're Azamar with a lot of flame themes to them. So another example of that.
Let's do a picture I like.
All right, so you get the idea. Their hair may not necessarily be on fire, but that could be certainly a flavor aspect of the character build itself. Okay. So we do note here that in terms of Peri-blooded for Emberkins, these are their racial modifiers, so 2 int, 2 charisma, which is going to be helpful for Maya because she's going to be an arcane wizard for this aspect. Okay.
But no dex losses, right?
Okay. So we have our race selected. Again, it's not a requirement for this build. We have our base class, which is the cross-blooded sorcerer. We now have to start picking our other classes. And then once we have that set up, we could then start going into the details of it. So one way we're going to do again, we're level 3, so level 2 and level 3 options we need to make. Well, a healing wizard is a wizard that has unlimited healing, Rothy. Okay. As in, they could cast all the spells that they want. Cantrip that deals 1 point of healing every single time that they cast it. And it is unlimited because it is a cantrip. And it is thanks to this particular portion here. It's a combination of cross-blooded Sorc, Phoenix Elemental, the 2 Arcana from those options, gives you an effectively unlimited healing capability as long as you can cast fire spells or any elemental spells, really. Okay. All right. So level 2, we have options to play with, right? This build is possible also with a pure class character. So if the idea of cross-classing, multi-classing isn't, gelling with you, you could actually do this with a pure Arcanist build as well. The way you would achieve that is with the Blood Arcanist, because that is an Arcanist archetype that does allow you to take a Bloodline Arcana. The downside to this is that it's no longer unlimited. You're capped with the amount of times you could do the fire-based healing spells available. But we want that unlimited healing, so we're going with this option. Now, with Fitzwolf Farseer's idea is that that person went with the Arcanist. Yeah, I know it's you.
We know it's you.
That person, the original poster for this build, they went with the Arcanist route. I typically don't like that approach, and the reason being is that sorcerers are already one level behind in terms of spell progression. Arcanist is 2. So by the time you get to level 3 with this, you're still not great in terms, you're 2 levels behind a pure wizard, for example. So I think that the way we could kind of make up for that is, rather than going Arcanist, we go to Wizard instead. And because Maya likes Arcanists, typically what that means is that we have a special archetype, the Exploiter Wizard, that can give Maya the Arcanist exploits that she greatly likes.
I do like the exploits a lot, but it's not giving me enough.
It's not, but the big one that she really likes is that quick study ability. That is the exploit that gives her the ability to swap out a prepared spell for something else that's in her spell book. So this is the base idea of the build. Cross-blooded sorcerer, Phoenix Elemental, and then Exploiter Wizard. Exploiter Wizard for everything else. So you could go that route, but you would have to find a spell. If you're referring to the prestige class, you may be the Mystic Thurge, which is the combination of 2 casting classes in 1.
I don't remember why I didn't like it. I did not like it for some reason.
Well, the reason why, because you would have to, at the earliest, you'd have to be level 6 in order to get Mystic Thurge 1. And the problem is that you're then splitting your levels between 2, and Maya doesn't want to impact her spell casting capability.
That.
Maybe for other people who may be watching the stream or viewing the recording of it, maybe they might find use in it, because again, the core component of this build is that 1 level dip in Cross-Blooded Sorcerer for those 2 Arcana. Anything after that, your mileage may vary on how you want to build that. But in Maya's case, we're not going that route, so we're going the Exploiter Wizard.
I do not split.
But yes, it would be possible if you wanted to go the cleric route. You would have to find I don't think they have access to a cantrip that would deal an elemental damage to do the unlimited healing part. I'd have to look that up. But they definitely have energy-based damage spells, which they can convert into healing. But then again, it's kind of a little bit wasted on clerics, because clerics would naturally have access to cure spells anyways. We're talking about a caster, an arcane caster. Yeah, you would have an arcane caster, that's what the focus of this build is, that is capable of 9th level wizard spells and still having that amazing utility of also being a decent healer on top of that, right? So you have that full wizard capability while still having amazing healing backup abilities. Okay, so let's talk about stats, right? So we gotta set our stats, right? So strength, dex, con, int, wiz, charisma. Again, for my campaign, every player has the same array to work with. You start off with an 18, and you have that 8 as an unfavorable stat.
Strength.
So 18 in strength, awesome.
Oh.
You're gonna be one strong wizard.
As much as I would love to be the wizard that gets into bodybuilding.
So keep in mind,
that's not what I meant.
Your ability modifiers, thanks to your peri-blooded race, is 2 int, 2 charisma. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You got that?
Yes.
So where would you want to put the 18 in?
Take a wild guess.
Okay, so we're going to assume that is an 18 into...
And I'm still intelligence-based, correct? Because I'm sorcerer.
Yes, so the sorcerer, you would need at least a 11 in...
Wait, isn't sorcerer charisma-based?
Sorcerer is charisma-based, so if you want to have spells from your sorcerer class, you would need at least a 11 in your charisma stat in order. If you don't care about having spells at all from your sorcerer class, then you could make it an 8 or a 10.
Okay. Alright, so we'll go, but most of them are going to be wizard, correct?
Well, everything else is going to be based off of your int, which is because from this point on, every level after the first one is going to be Exploiter Wizard.
Yes, so intelligence is 18.
Okay. So, I mean, you could do things like, what is it? Get some non-level dependent spells from your wizard class. So non-level dependent spells would be things like True Strike, right? Because it doesn't matter whether you're level 1 or level 20 when you cast True Strike, the effect is exactly the same. That's what I mean by not level dependent. You could do things like maybe Expeditious Retreat too. It might only last one round, sure, because you're caster level 1 in that regards. But we actually might have a trait to also impact that too. So anyways, let's continue on. Where's the 16 going?
So 8 is going into strength.
Okay. So we know that's going to be a -1 modifier.
Let's do... I'm not getting any pluses to Dex because I am no longer an elf.
Correct.
So let's do... Painful. It's so painful. It physically harms me. Let's do... So I'm getting Charisma +2. So let's do 14 Charisma.
Okay, so you are getting that +2 to Charisma thanks to your Azamar Parry-Blooded.
Yes. So you think I should do 12 to Charisma?
Well, again, Charisma is not going to be... I mean, unless you want to be kind of like the face of the party too, because you will have skills from Sorcerer and Wizard. So you would be able to kind of be a good diplomatizer too, right? Because the Sorcerer will give you access to things like Bluff, and I think they have Intimidate. But definitely Bluff, Diplomacy. So you could do kind of a face build if you want to go that direction as well.
I mean, I don't think for my character face build would be a good idea considering where we're playing, because there's going to be lots of people who do not appreciate Half-Bloods or Aasimar. So I'm assuming I'm going to be met with...
Well, so for those who may not be familiar, the campaign is taking place in the nation of Cheliax.
Yeah, they're not the nicest.
They are very into devil worshipping, so it's not like, I don't think that there's an outright hatred for Aasimar, but they're probably not going to be looked on too kindly.
Yeah.
Because again, the preference for the overwhelming majority of the populace would be, hey, let's worship Asmodeus.
So I guess Charisma doesn't have to be that high. I just always wanted to play a character with a decent charisma because I usually play the sorcerer, the wizards. My charisma is usually... I always wanted to have a high charisma.
Okay.
But there are so many other things that would pay off more.
All right, so
This is painful.
these are choices, hard choices.
Yes. So let's do, my dex is not getting any pluses, so my constitution isn't getting any pluses.
No, so you have to keep those in mind.
Yeah, I do. This is sad.
Choices,
So
choices.
sad. Oy, 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 oy. So let's do... I will sleep with my dungeon master for an extra 18.
So there's no
Right now,
not propositioning the GM on stream.
It's an up and it's it's above the table. I am propositioning you for an extra 18.
Don't proposition me under the table. Oh. Okay. No extra, because we have to make this fair for everyone. So
Hey,
you have to decide where that 16's going.
I'm sorry, I took it too far.
Let's keep this PG.
Yes.
Okay. So where is that 16 going? We could also pick some other things too if you're not dead set right now.
Okay. No. We can do it. Let's do it fast and like a band-aid. Let's do. I'm getting +2 to charisma, so let's do charisma 10.
Okay.
Although I feel like it's kind of being wasted.
No, this will still give you the ability to get some spells from the sorcerer deck.
No. Let's do charisma 12. I want more spells. More. But I'd like to be able to do wisdom checks as well, and I'd like to not die. That would be.
Well, I mean, both classes are going to be will focused, so you're not going to be terribly hurt there.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. Fine. Let's. Okay. Fine. Charisma 10. I made a decision. I'm sticking to it, just like chess. I made a decision. I'm sticking to it. You forgot to put +2 to both of them. You put -1 to strength.
That's because that's a strength modifier. Innate strength is -1 strength modifier.
Okay, fine.
You should know that. You've been playing Pathfinder forever.
I know. I just don't like seeing minus in no classes. Anyway.
Decisions.
I know. I'm not getting minuses, so that's good. So let's do Dex. Painful. Let's do Dex 14. No. Let's do Constitution 14.
Okay. So good to have some decent constitution. For a wizard, it's going to help with your fortitude saves. It's going to help with your overall hit points.
The offer is still on the table or under the table, whichever table you like.
Nope.
So you're saying we're going to table the offer for now?
We're going to continue picking our next ability.
Dang it. Okay. +2. Give me +2. All right.
Where's the 16 going?
And to Rothy, I don't want to make a glass cannon because that's what I normally make.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little bit different in Pathfinder because you have the rest of the party. The party size right now is 8 players. So we have certainly people that are capable of helping cover down that aspect. If we were playing like an action RPG like Diablo or whatnot, then it's where it's going to get a little bit more tricky to do.
I do have wisdom checks here and there, correct? So
yeah, I mean every player would do.
Okay, so let's do wisdom 16 and dexterity 12.
So the wisdom is in 16.
And dexterity.
So we have 18, 16, 14, 12, 10. Okay, you happy with that?
Unless you take my offer, I'm as happy as I'm going to get.
Okay, so
I'll buy you a soda. I'll bring you a drink.
nope.
Oh, come on!
All right.
I'll make burgers tomorrow for dinner.
Okay.
Allow me to bribe you.
Nope. So let's set that in stone. So with racial modifiers, we are now going to put that into that. So now with our stats selected, starting off, our first level character looks like this in terms of stats. Okay, so pretty good. All right, so how do we build? So most players may be familiar with like building a character with like a tool of some kind. So for example, like Hero Lab's pretty popular, right? There's plenty of other online tools that can help you build the character as well. But I think it's always good to know how to build a character completely from scratch too, because you may be in a situation where you may need to make adjustments, or maybe a campaign like mine has custom stuff in it that maybe Hero Lab doesn't have the ability to easily adapt to that. So
you know what? Let's switch out wisdom and charisma. I'm sorry. No, leave it.
Okay.
This is physically painful for me.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, so let's continue to move on.
We may switch it out later.
Right, but for the purposes of this healing build, we don't need to worry about it too much. We'll just leave this as is and consider this to be our final decision. All right.
Unless I change my mind.
So let's start off with how we write out our skills. Right. So this is the way I do it. Okay. So whenever I have a class that I'm starting or a character that I'm starting at a higher level, so in this case we're starting at level 3, I typically follow this method in order to write out all the classes. So I go through in order and write down all the abilities I have from each class. So in this case, I'm going to start off with my level 1 cross-blooded sorcerer. And this right now is kind of like a notes section and how I do it. So let's take a look at our archetype and our sorcerer details. So from here, I just scroll down. I'll copy this so I know what my skills are. And eventually this is something I do end up putting into an actual PDF that I could share with people. So I know that these are my skills. Okay? So basically up to the level that I'm at, that's what I copy into my notes as well. So in this case, I know that my base attack bonus is 0, my saves are 0, 0, 2. So let me write that down. So B8B plus 0.
Ooh, plus 90, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's a good thing as a typo.
Aww.
My saves are plus 0, plus 0.
Yes, plus 9.
Plus 2. So then I write down here what my special powers are. So at first level, because that's what I'm starting off at, Bloodline Power, Cantrips, issue materials, and then spells per day, first level plus 3. Spells per
cantrips.
day.
Or counting cantrips or not counting cantrips? No, not counting.
Okay. Now the sorcerer, because they are a spontaneous caster, we have to scroll down a little bit further to know what spells we have known to us. Right, so in this case, spells known. Zero level, we have 4 cantrips, and then first level, we have 2. Okay, so here's the base sorcerer. So if I was just playing a pure sorcerer, I would then go through the process of going through the actual entries of that class description and then filling out more information based on what my character can do. So in this case, I would go through my bloodline, right? And then I would pick my bloodline based off of what is written in my notes. But because we are using an archetype, I have to make adjustments to account for what the archetype is going to change. So the way I do that is after I fill out my notes like that, I go to the archetype description, and we know that the cross-blooded archetype is going to make some changes to my class. So going through this, we can see that a cross-blooded sorcerer selects 2 different bloodlines. Right? So we're going to do that, put that in our notes first. Okay. And then here, a cross-blooded sorcerer receives the bonus class skills from both of her bloodlines if they are the same skill. Now, for my particular build, we're not going to have to worry about that too much, but we are going to focus on the extra parts here, right? So in this particular case, this is the big hit to the archetype ability. Bonus spells are reduced because the nature of them taking both parts. So actually that's further down. So here we have our first drawback. So 1 fewer spells known at each level, including cantrips. So we have to note that, right? So spells known, thanks to the cross-blooded, goes down 1. So, but thanks to that Charisma 12, Maya will still be able to learn at least 1 spell for first level and from her first level sorcerer dip.
What if my Charisma was 16?
It doesn't matter because you're not going to be leveling sorcerer anymore.
That's true.
you're only doing a 1-level dip in cross-blooded and for sorcerer for the bloodlines.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The rest of these, for this particular build, the rest of these adjustments really not going to make a difference. She will gain a bloodline power. She'll get to pick one from
Wings.
either of the... Well, so the wings thing is something different. You're not going to get wings from either of the bloodlines. That's going to be a racial trait thanks to your peri-blooded line. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so now that we have our notes here, right, what we need to do is actually fill out what we're going to get. So our bloodline power. So we know that our bloodline is going to be bloodline Phoenix and elemental. And then we'll put the caveat here, fire. Okay? So we do get a bloodline power. So we'll put that. Our bloodline power, thanks to our archetype, we can select a bloodline power from elemental or a bloodline power first level from Phoenix. So let's take a look at both and see what our options are. So for the Phoenix, the bloodline power here is Unseen World. At first level, you get Detect Magic, Read Magic as Spells Known. Okay. Now, this is where, again, the impact of this is going to be very, very small because you're not going to be advancing the Sorcerer class at all for this build.
Yeah.
So the effects of it are really, really minor because obviously, since you're not advancing that, that's never going to come into play.
Unfortunately, I do like
Right.
that.
So really, if you go with the Phoenix bloodline, this is your benefit. You get Detect Magic and Read Magic. And for those watching the stream, one of Maya's favorite spells in Pathfinder is Detect Magic. Those
Yes,
who
it
have
is.
played with us know how often she casts it. So that might be interesting. She gets a free Detect Magic and Read Magic as Spells Known.
It would be nice if I could get the rest of it. I would really enjoy it.
Okay, let's compare that to our bloodline power for the elemental bloodline. So at here, the first line bloodline power is our elemental ray. So a touch attack, range touch, dealing elemental damage related to your bloodline. Okay, meh, not very. Again, for you as a wizard, you're going to be having plenty of range capabilities. I don't see this as great of a value for you, especially since you're limited here too. Charisma modifier +3, right? Not going to be great. Well, also, the damage is not going to be increasing, you're right,
Yeah.
Moogle, because she's not leveling up
Yeah.
for Sorcerer. And
And
she'll
you don't
only
have
be
much.
able to use it 4 times a day, because, again, Charisma is not going to be a strong stat for her. So I think it would be better
Unseen World.
for your first bloodline power to be this, Unseen World.
I kind of would like the Vermilion Wings, but yeah.
Okay. Well, so for you in particular, what we can do
Oh.
is that we can replace a racial trait to give you that flying capability.
Okay.
Now, this is something that not everyone is going to be able to take advantage of with the Azamar because technically it is a racial replacement that we're going to do to give her the ability to fly. That's something that you'll have to consult with your GM to see if that's okay. But I'll allow it. It does replace
My
their
GM
spell-like...
likes me a lot.
It does replace the racial spell-like ability of the Azamar race in order to take an alternate racial trait. So, because she is peri-blooded, her alternate spell-like ability is she gains the ability to cast pyrotechnics once a day. The way we can give her the ability to fly is by replacing that with a racial trait. Now, typically, the variant, you have to roll on this, but again, it says here that if you have a particular character concept in mind, talk to your GM if they're okay, you could pick it. The ability here is that regardless of what variant ability you pick, it replaces your spell-like ability's racial trait for Azamar's. So we're replacing that pyrotechnics spell-like ability once a day to basically get something from this list. It's quite exhaustive, but the one that she's looking for is this one. You have a natural speed of 20 flying. Poor maneuverability, so not amazing.
Should I wait for it? Should I wait a few levels to get better?
What do you mean?
Isn't there a way for me to get actual wings at level 9 or something?
With the elemental bloodline, yes, natively. But you're Azamar, so there's also some racial traits that you can take to improve your ability to fly.
What if my half-elven class is winged elf?
That doesn't exist in, as far as I know. You're thinking of
Dragons and dragons.
you're thinking of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
Avariel, I think, is the name of the race that you're talking about. That doesn't exist here.
Oh, come on. Alright,
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so we now picked our Bloodline Power, right? Our next class feature is Cantrips. So then we refer to our Sorcerer class details to understand what that does. So scrolling down on our list, we go Cantrips. Okay, so that's nothing really to note here. We know that we have Cantrips. And we have eschew materials from. So that's good. You never need to worry about carrying a spell component back. So that's a nice, another reason to dip 1 level in Sorcerer. And we know that spells per day, we have that. Because of your charisma modifier, we do know that that's at a +1. I know that because I've been playing Pathfinder forever. And we do know that spells known is going to be this, thanks to the modification of our cross-blooded sorcerer archetype. So, from that, we do know now that for our blood, if I could spell, this is what your class features look like, in addition to this base attack bonus. And again, the skills are also there. So we'll do that as well. So skills, that, and we are done with our cross-blooded sorcerer. Okay. Now let's take a look at our wizard, our exploiter wizard in question. So we're going to follow the same methodology. In this case, we're going to be doing it for 2 levels instead. So we'll first go to our base class, which is our wizard here. Just like we did for our sorcerer, what we're going to do is that we're going to scroll down. We're going to go through all of this, basically from top to bottom. Hit points we usually do last. We'll go copy this, so we know that our wizard classes are that. Skill points, we're not going to worry about that right now. But again, just like we did before, base attack bonus is +0, so BAB. It's going to be the same as the cross-blooded sorcerer, really. You can see that 0, 0, 0, 2. Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to copy this just for our temporary notes. And again, spells per day. We're going to do first level, well, yeah, that's slots, so not necessarily spells like your spells per day. 0 is going to be 3, and first level is going to be 1. Now, I do know that because of your intelligence 20, that gives you 2 bonus spells at first level, and that's just pure memorization because I've made so many into 20 characters before. But you could look that up if you're curious about that on the D20 Pathfinder subreddit. The section describing ability scores will show you how you get that breakdown. So you could see here that abilities and spellcasters, a score of 20, modifier +5, you get 2 bonus first level spells a day. So that's pretty fun. Okay. All right. So now let's add the adjustments in for our archetype. Let's see what the archetype replaces. We go to our archetypes. We go scroll down to Exploiter Wizard. And we see what gets replaced. So going down the list, just like we did for our cross-blooded Sorc, we see that our first feature, Arcane Reservoir, this ability replaces Arcane Bond. So the way I do here is I copy this, and then I replace it like that. So I know that when I start filling this out in full, I know that I am to ignore Arcane Bond completely and just go with Arcane Reservoir. And then exploit, this ability replaces Arcane School. So again, copy this and replace it as such. Exploit. Okay? So now what I do is that when I'm going to fill out all of this, I go through the process of filling out the relevant information that I need. So you can see that I also keep cantrips, I also keep scribe scroll. Okay. Going back to the details, I know that we did it for our first level. Now we want to add in our second level, which we could have done initially too. So we do know that we do get 1 level of BAB increase, and our will save goes up by 1. So I'll make that adjustment here, 1 and 1. And we do know that thanks to our second level dip, our spells per day goes up 1 as well. Spells per day, 1 and 1. We still get the 2 bonus spells for having a high intelligence. Okay, so our Arcane Reservoir, if we go back to our Exploiter Wizard, let's understand what that does. Okay, we gain an Arcane Reservoir very similar to the Arcanist feature of that ability. We use our Wizard level as comparative to our Arcanist level when determining how many points we have. Now we'll have to go into the Arcanist entry to look that up, so let's hold that for now. So at first level we get let's take a look at the exploit. At first level and every 4 levels after that. So in this particular build's case, we'll start at level 2, and then at level 6, level 10, that's when you're going to get it, the next exploit. So Maya will have access to 1 exploit. So I'll usually list it like this so I know to actually put something here for my exploit. Let's go now to our Arcanist page to look up those entries. So we find the Arcane Reservoir entry in the Arcanist page, and this is where we learn how to make this adjustment. So we do know that from a short standpoint, the Arcanist Reservoir holds a maximum number of energy points, 3 plus the Arcanist level. So usually what I do here to make it make sense, I usually write as 3 plus Wizard level here, because it is going to match 1 for 1. 3 plus Wizard level. That's the cap. Now every day though, the Arcanist starts with a number of points equal to 3 plus half her level. And
so 3 plus 2.
3 plus 1/2. Wizard.
Should it be around half or down?
Level. If you think of it like an Excel spreadsheet formula, it'll look something like this. In reality, what that does for now, for our character level, that means that we're level 3, half your wizard level is going to be 1.
Oh, that's right.
So it's going to be 4, and your cap is going to be 6.
Okay. Alright, so okay, I got it.
So, well, it's a pool of points to power some of their abilities.
So quick question, when my wizard level will be 3?
Then it's going to be 3 plus half your wizard level. Your 3 is going to get it's round down, so it's going to be 1.5. Okay. Yeah, so very similar to amongst Key, the arcane pool for a magus, the deeds for a gunslinger. Very similar. It's a special reservoir used to power Arcanist abilities.
Okay. So it's going to be round down. Okay.
Yep. It's always round down unless it states otherwise. So you have a total of 6 points total. You have certain exploits that can give you the ability to consume magic items, for example, to increase your reservoir. But you start off with 4 a day. Okay. So now we also have to pick out your exploit as well, right? Because you do get 1 at this time. So let's take a look at your exploits. Now, Arcanists have a variety of exploits to work with, but the one that is Maya's favorite is called Quick Study. So if we scroll all the way down to Quick Study, actually I think I went too far. Yeah, this is the exploit that is her favorite, right? So what this exploit can do is that by spending one of her points in her Arcane Reservoir, so by default, as of right now, with her being 3rd level, she has 4 points a day. She could do this up to 4 times a day. As a full round action that it provokes attack of opportunity, she could swap out a spell that she has memorized for another one in her spell book. So it could be a situation like she may have Fireball memorized, but then we have running into enemies that are fire immune, right? She could then spend one of these points, these Arcane Reservoir points, to swap that out for something else, maybe Lightning Bolt, for example, right? So that's her favorite. Another good one, another popular one, is Dimensional Step. Now this is less utility. This is more or less utility, but this is another popular one. Exploit 1 point, same thing as just like Quick Study. But what this does is that every time she uses this, she can move up to 10 feet per her Arcanist level. In this case, it'll be 2, so 20 feet in total. This counts as 5 feet of movement. So this is a kind of short-range dimension door effect that she could use to kind of like get out of trouble if she's into it. And again, it could be used in any direction. So she could use this to go 20 feet up in this if she wanted to. Okay. So this is also a popular exploit to take because it provides that utility in terms of movement. But for now, what she's going to do is that she's going to take Quick Study.
You didn't even have to ask.
I know, because that's the one you always take.
I am a creature of habit.
Okay, so what does that look like? So we have our information put together, so we have a rough idea of what this looks like. How do we combine the two? So now we will do that by essentially combining all of these into one. So skills are this, and then if we have it the same here, we know that Appraise is already there, Craft is already there, Fly is there, Knowledge All.
Yeah.
That's effectively that's going to replace Knowledge Arcana from the Sorcerer. Linguistics is added. And Spellcraft. So this is your skills for your character.
Okay.
Praise, Bluff, Craft, Fly, Intimidate, Knowledge, All, Linguistics, Profession, Spellcraft, and Use Magic Device.
But Arcana is included in all, correct?
Yes.
Alright. Because it's kind of important.
Okay. The next one is to do the combination of base attack plus your saves. Now we have 0 from the Sorcerer dip, 1, so that's good. The saves is going to be 002, 003 for a total of 005. I think there was also, if I remember correctly, there was also one detriment. Yeah, so there was one detriment to the drawback that we didn't account for yet. In addition to the 1 less spell known per day for Sorcerer, they also take a -2 penalty to will saves.
Okay.
So that's going to drop it down
that's not
to
good.
3.
Go back up. What's my go back up? Go back up.
What?
I want to look at my wisdom.
You're at a 16. This is just base. This is not adding your scores in yet. Right? And now we're going to combine all of these. So you're going to have this, the Bloodline Powers.
No, you're just saying my will saves.
Cantrips, Eschew Materials, Arcane Reservoir, Cantrips, Spells per day, spells known.
This is really okay.
And then we'll just put Sorcerer here, just to make it clear that it's coming from one or the other. And then Wizard. So So at a very, very basic level, that's what the character looks like so far, right? We have our skills, we have our base attack bonus set, saves, bloodlines, powers, cantrips, and other class features. Now we haven't done anything like hit points, proficiencies, or anything like that, skills, really, the actual distribution of points. But this is just a concept of how I build a character. I usually put all these things in notes, and then I pull out like a writable PDF of then start writing this information into the PDF itself. All right, so let's see what kind of skill points we have. If I'm pretty certain that both the Sorcerer are 2 plus int for skill points per each level. So 2 plus int, yep. And if we look at Wizard, should be the same, 2 plus int. All right, so we do know for a fact then that you're getting 2 plus your intelligence modifier per level. So how many skill points does that give us? So if we think 2 plus 5, 2 plus 5, 2 plus 5, so it's 7 per level, we have a total of 21 skill points to distribute amongst the ones that we see listed here. Those are our trained skills. Okay, what about hit points? Well, we're pretty sure that the hit points are going to be in the same category. They're both the same because we're talking about pure caster classes, D6, and our sorcerer is going to be a D6 as well. Now I need to just quickly look. I believe for my campaign though, I said everyone takes max hit points. Let me just pull something up to make sure that that is the case. Yep, max hit points for every level. So what that means is that we're going to go with a D6 for every level, adding our Constitution modifier. Right, so we know our Constitution modifier is 2. So for hit points, it's going to be 2 plus 6, 2 plus 6, 2 plus 6. So 8 points per level for a total of 24 hit points. Now this is before we do the whole favored class feature. Now, so we have our hit points, we have our skill points, we did do proficiencies, which we're not going to really worry about too much because we're talking about a pure caster class, right? We could do that, but it's not going to be very, very much in terms of what we're working with here. We're talking about weapon arm proficiencies with this, and compare that with the sorcerer, which is probably, I think, a little bit more. So all simple weapons, no armor, and
I think it's the same.
no, wizards are limited weapons.
Okay.
No armor. So the only proficiency that we have, oops, all simple weapons. C's. And I can't spell right now.
I.E.
I'll just put all simple weapons. Okay, we'll leave it like that. Okay, so we have 24 hit points, 21 skill points, BAB 1 saves, all simple weapons, and here are my class features, or here are Maya's class features. Okay. So in terms of everything else, we do know that Maya's wizard is also going to have a spell book. Now, I haven't published this to the actual rules for my campaign, but I don't like how it costs so much money to scribe spells into a spell book. It's very, very expensive to do that. So particularly with the whole spell book, because rules as written, which is RAW, if you ever hear that term, that stands for rules as written, meaning that an interpretation of the rules exactly how it's written, whereas RAI, rules as interpreted, is the spirit of the rules as intended. So rules as written, when you write a spell into a spell book, if it's a level 3 spell, each page takes one page, each spell takes 1 page per spell level. So if I have a spell book and if we take a third level spell, I want to scribe that in my spell book. That takes 3 pages to scribe that third level spell. Most spell books come in 50 to 100 pages. So if we're talking about a character that really likes to gather spells, they have to carry like a small library with them in order to account for all the spells. It's not just one book that they can actually carry. So for like the main quest NPC that is with the campaign right now, her name is Colette. She does have a variety of spells in her spell book, but she has to spread that across like 4 books. There is what's called the Blessed Book. It's a magic item that does make this a lot easier, but it is very, very expensive. It's like 12,000 gold just to start off with. And it does reduce that problem, but it doesn't eliminate it completely, because I think that one is like 1,000 pages, and each spell just takes up a single page, regardless of the spell level.
Quick question: it's not it's not a feat. I can't create it if I take up a feat, can I?
What was that?
Can I create that tome if I take a specific feat?
So you can't. It is a craftable item. So this is another thing to note, that my campaign is not Pathfinder Society, so crafting is an option for my campaign. So you would be able to, with one of your feats, which we haven't even gotten to yet.
Okay.
You would be able to do something like take craft magic item, craft wondrous item,
Yes.
and be able to make that,
Okay.
provided you have the resources to do that.
So how much would it cost? 6, right?
If it's 12,500, then it would be 6,250.
It's a little pricey.
It is pricey, so we're not going to be focusing on getting that just yet.
Yeah, I might be better off with just getting a nice back holding.
Okay. So, in addition to that, so our next thing is to select feats, right? So we do know that at first level and third level we have 2 feats. So what we do is that, well, I'll just write it like that to know that we have selected that. Now, typically when I write feats like that, I usually like to also put when I got the feat and from what. So like first level feat. It helps me remind me where that feat came from. Third level. So it's good, just an informational thing for yourself. So if I have like a bonus feat thanks to, let's say, the wizard class, I'll write it as such. So the first bonus feat for Maya will be at level 6. So her feats will look like this: 5th level feat, and then once she gets 6th level, bonus. I'll write it like that just to help remind me where it's coming from, right? So they may not be something that we select now because we're still making the rest of the character here.
Craft wondrous items.
So you could take that, craft wondrous item. Okay, so if that's what you want, craft wondrous item.
How else am I going to get a bag of holding and nice shoes?
But let's make sure that you qualify for that feat. So
I was under impression I did.
you probably do. But let's just double check. Never hurts to double check.
Mm-hmm.
So we do item creation. Let's scroll down. Craft wondrous item. Caster level 3rd. So we are going to take, so technically, again, rules as written, you're not caster level 3rd yet.
So
But there is a trait that we are going to take that's going to correct that problem, so it will allow you to take it. Okay, because we also have traits to select as well. So unless your GM notes otherwise, a standard character, Pathfinder character, can select up to 2 traits for your character build. And so a trait is like a minor perk or a thing that makes minor adjustments. Typically where I see traits used the most is to give you access to class skills that are not normally associated with your class. So for example, we don't see we do see intimidate here. We don't see diplomacy here, right? It's a good face skill. You could get a trait that gives you access to diplomacy even though that your base class never had access to it. Sleight of hand is another option too if you want to add some more stealth elements to your character. Stealth is like another good one. You could do that too. There are lots of traits that do lots of different things. So one of the traits that I know in particular, and we'll find it together right now, the D20 Pathfinder website is better at searching traits than AON PRD. I'll show you. So caster level. So the one trait that we're going to take, I have to remember exactly. Where it is Magical Knack, yes. So what this does, if we want to open it up in a separate window, pick a class when you gain this trait. Your caster level in that class gets a +2 trait bonus as long as this bonus doesn't raise your caster level above your current hit dice. So what that means is that by taking Magical Knack and associating it with the wizard class that we have, that's going to give us a +2 bonus, trait bonus to our caster level. Currently our caster level, because we are only a level 2 exploiter wizard at this time, right? We only have 2 of these. We are only caster level 2 technically from that exploiter wizard, but this makes it caster level 3. It doesn't give us access to higher level spells, but at least kind of covers down on the multi-classing problem. So if you're ever involving yourself with a multi-classing scenario with casters, just remember that Magical Knack trait can kind of cover for the caster level difference. So that's really, really good to take for multi-class casters. Okay. All right, so you picked Craft Wondrous Item for your 3rd level feat, but that still has your 1st level feat available.
Options?
What was that?
What are my options?
You have plenty of options. This is
yeah,
Pathfinder.
Of course
You have
I do.
tons of options. Now, if you want some suggestions, we do have some suggestions originally from the original poster.
Okay.
Fitz will Farseer on Reddit.
Okay.
Some examples are spell focus evocation. Again, this is to be more casting focused if you want to be more offensive aligned to increase the difficulty class of your spells. Again, most of those spells are going to be evocation anyways because you're a caster flinging fireballs, burning hands, all the good stuff.
That's potentially a good option.
Okay. There could be extra exploit feats too. Let's see if you qualify for that. Extra exploit. Oh no, I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So let's do extra exploit. Extra Arcanist exploit. Okay. So there's no requirement here, but you're not
An Arcanist.
an Arcanist at first. You're not taking the dip in
Yeah.
at first level. However, okay. So one way you can get around this, rules as written, is just do Exploiter Wizard, Cross-Blooded Sorcerer, Exploiter Wizard as far as the level progression is concerned, right? That would get around that because then at level 1 you would be a wizard capable because you would have that feature. So to save that trouble, what we can do is that we can say you have that feat option available to you at first level because that's going to be part of your build anyways. So that's an option if you want to get extra exploit to be able to do things like pick dimensional slide, because right now the next time you get an exploit is going to be at total character level 6.
That's okay. I was thinking of Silence Spell, but I think this might be better.
Well, Silence Spell, the problem with that is that that's meta magic. You're going to need to enhance that spell level. It increases your spell level, remember?
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, so
You don't have 2nd level spells to increase it too. The only spells you could silence are your cantrips. And they wouldn't even be... That would put them in a 1st level spot, which means that they're expendable. So it's not like you could silence something and keep continuing to cast it over and over and over again.
Alright, let's get an extra exploit.
Okay, so you have 2 options, I think, that are also one that we didn't discuss earlier when we talked about exploits. We didn't talk about potent magic. So one thing that you can do in addition to the quick study you can do, you spend your Arcane Reservoir points to increase the caster level of your spell or the DC of your spell by 1. But if you were to select this exploit, whenever you spend that point, it increases it by 2 instead of 1. So again, like enhancing a spell to make it a little bit extra difficult to resist, or extending the duration or effect of that spell by 2. It's never a bad thing, right? But your mileage may vary. So I think a good option is either Potent Magic or the Dimensional Step.
I like both of them a lot.
Okay. I think that from a character standpoint, the Dimension Step is better because Potent Magic is just enhancing something that you already have, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Dimension Step is giving you something completely new that you don't have right now at all.
That's true. And it doesn't get out of...
And it is a good utility because it is something that, like, if somebody tries to grapple you, you could use that to bounce out and, save yourself.
Okay. I forgot Dimensional Slide. If there is, like, an obstacle between me and what I see, am I still able to dimensionally slide?
So let's read the ability to make sure that we understand it. Creates a dimensional strip. The ability can be used as part of a move action or withdraw action, allowing her to move up to, in this case, 20 feet to any location she can see. So you have to be able to see it. That's the catch right there.
No, but as long as I can see the location, I can move to it.
Yes. So if somebody does grapple you, this is a supernatural ability, so this wouldn't provoke an attack of opportunity when doing this. You could just, like, again, somebody tries to grapple you, you could use this to move away from it.
Can I use this to, like, let's say I'm in prison, can I basically dimension slide through the bars? It seems like...
Yeah, you would be able to.
Yeah.
So if you're in a jail cell, that's a good use case. You could certainly see outside of the jail cell. You could use Dimensional Slide to just go through the bars.
Wait until they're asleep and, see ya.
Dimensional Slide.
I could even fly my way out of there slowly, quietly, so I don't hear the footsteps.
Okay. All right, so we still have one trait to pick. We could skip that for now, I think.
Okay.
Why don't we have our feats now, first level and third level feats. What we need to do is start picking out some of our spells now, right? Let's start picking out some of our spells. Let's start with the Sorcerer, because we know that that's going to be relatively simple. So, Sorcerer Spells, right? Right, so we know that from our list, spells known, 3 0-level spells, and 1 first-level spell.
Yes.
So now it's time to go shopping.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is that we're now going to take a look at what spells might be useful from a sorcerer standpoint. Now the thing to note here is that we want to select spells that are non-level dependent, because again, this is only a 1-level dip in our cross-blooded sorcerer build. We generally want to avoid spells that grow in strength and level, because they're not going to ever grow in strength from a sorcerer standpoint, at least, right? So when we take a look at some of these spells, we'll want to keep that in mind. So let's take a look at Message, for example. It's a good role-playing spell because it allows us to communicate. Now, here the thing, this is what I mean by level dependent. You could see that the description tells us that the target of our Message spell is 1 creature per level. Again, because this is only going to be a 1-level dip in our sorcerer build, it's not ideal here, right? Because you'll only be able to target 1 creature ever. So that's what I mean by trying to avoid level dependent spells with this particular build. But let's take a look at some of our other options here. Ones that might not be level dependent. Well, we do know that we get Detect and Read Magic thanks to our Bloodline Power, so we don't need to worry about picking those up. But let's take a look at, let's say, Arcane Mark. I believe that one's not level dependent. Right, so this is an example of a spell that is not level dependent. You can see that nothing in here is really based off of what level you are. So again, this is a good role-playing spell in the sense that it's only going to be useful during role-playing situations. You could put your arcane mark on a rock or a book or your clothes, whatever. So this is a good candidate for our sorcerer level 0 spells, right? We'll go through this again in the future, but to, I think, kind of save some time, let's focus on the first level spells because that's where we really want to pick one for our sorcerer spell list. Again, ideally, we want to avoid the level dependent spells. Now, unfortunately, there's not an easy way to really tell from this list which one's level dependent without actually diving in and checking it out. But one I think that is not level dependent off the top of my head would be True Strike. So let's scroll down. Let's check out True Strike. That's a very popular.
What about Mage Armor? Is that?
Mage Armor is level dependent because the duration is level dependent.
Oh, that's right. And Ray of Frost?
Ray of Frost is a 0 level spell. It's a cantrip.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So let's take a look at True Strike. Very, very powerful spell. And we could see here, if I remember correctly, this is not level dependent. So you cast this spell, the idea here is that you're going to get a plus 20 bonus, insight bonus to your next attack roll. It has to be made before the end of your next turn, but again, the important thing is that it's not level dependent. This is a plus for our build because we're only going to, it doesn't matter if you're level 1, level 20, this spell functionally is identical when you cast it. So True Strike is a good candidate for our spell. Let's see if there's anything else. Wave Shield. This is a good defensive one. Is this level dependent? Yes, it is. So even though the initial description doesn't suggest anything level dependent, the main description does actually give you level dependency. So granting you DR, null, and fire resistance equal to half your caster level minimum 1. So I mean, if you do take it, the only
difference,
the only number you'll ever get out of this is just 1. This is an interesting spell overall, though. It's a good way to protect your caster from immediate danger because this is an immediate action spell. So this can be cast in response to something that's about to hit you. Let's say that you are about to be hit by an arrow. As long as you're aware of the attack and you could just be like, ha, Wave Shield, I could reduce some of the damage that is about to hit me. Let's see if there's any others. It might be a little bit tricky to find non-level dependence. I think Sure Casting is actually
that would be.
Yeah, so this is a non-level dependent spell, so another good candidate. And this one actually might be a bit better.
That's exactly what I was
because what this spell does, that kind of similar to True Strike, where it gives you a bonus on the next thing you're about to do, Sure Casting makes you treat your caster level as 5 times higher for the purposes of overcoming spell resistance. So we're early on in the campaign right now, so the likelihood of us running into spell resistance monsters is very, very low. But certainly that's going to be a challenge as we move further and further into the campaign. When you need to beat spell resistance, sometimes it could be a bit tricky because that spell resistance can be quite high for some monsters. But what this spell does is that this ensures that you have a much greater chance of success by simply like casting a buff spell on yourself and then casting, I don't know, Fireball or Magic Missile at the target. So I think that's okay, so we'll take that Sure Casting. And again, not level dependent, so that we are able to make most use out of this. All right, so that's cool. I think we said Arcane Mark was one.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that you get the freebie, so I'll actually put that there. F represents free. Detect magic.
I thought I was able to do it for free.
Yeah, that's being added in because of your Bloodline Power.
Okay.
So you still, on the Sorcerer side, still have 2 cantrips to select, but we've selected your first level spell sure casting. Okay, so now let's move on to our wizard. Okay, so our wizard, we have, now the wizard's a little bit different. Because a wizard's reliant on a spell book, we should look up what exactly we have in terms of spells available to us. Because the sorcerer, spontaneous casters certainly have spells known that's written into their character entry. But wizards can scribe spells, right? So we need to know how many spells we have available to us for free thanks to our our class feature. So the way we find that out is that we have to scroll down to our spellbooks entry. We didn't write that into our notes previously because it's not listed in that character table. But basically all wizards start with a free spellbook, and that they have a certain number of free spells that they have as part of their character creation. And then for every level that they gain in the wizard class, they gain 2 additional spells that they can scribe for free. Now typically, again, what I mentioned before is that normally this is a cost associated with scribing new spells into your spellbook. And again, for low level campaigns, for low money campaigns, this can be a bit painful for some characters, which is why I've typically adjusted that for my campaigns. But anyways, so a wizard begins play with a spellbook containing all 0 level spells, except those from the prohibited school. Doesn't apply for your build because you don't have an arcane school. Plus 3 first level spells of your choice. Okay, so we know all the cantrip spells, so we're not even going to bother that. So right off the bat, we have 3 first level spells of your choice. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's go back. The wizard also selects a number of additional first level spells equal to their intelligence modifier to add to the spell book. Okay, so we go back up to our abilities. We have intelligence plus 5, that's our modifier. So we have an additional 5 spells to add. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. At each new wizard level, he gains 2 new spells of any spell level or levels that he can cast for his spellbook. Okay, since we're a 2nd level wizard, we get an additional 2. 1, 2. Now that's because we could still only cast 1st level spells at this time. On next level, so total character level 4 for Maya, those next 2 spells can be used to add 2 2nd level spells for free. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These 10 spells are absolutely free for Maya to select for her wizard. Okay, so this is, again, we go into the shopping mode.
Magic missile.
And, well, we already know what we like in some cases, so. There are some definite staples of wizardry.
Yes.
Mage armor is another one.
Yep. Should I get a shield or no?
Shield is a good one, because that is a different armor bonus, armor class bonus than mage armor, so that would protect you even more.
The necromancy, the 2 necromancy spells. What am I thinking of?
So let's check that out. Let's go to our wizard spell list.
I am thinking of.
So you're probably thinking of the ray spells.
Yep.
So you're probably thinking of ray of enfeeblement.
Yep.
So that is a necromancy spell. It's a good spell, reduces the target's strength if it hits. They still get a fort save against it though.
I know. And Ray of Sickening.
Okay, you could take that too.
When do I get blindness, deafness?
That is I believe a 2nd level spell.
Okay, I'll have to wait for that.
Now keep in mind that Maya's not 100% limited to just those 10 spells. Per character creation rules, she does have a starting wealth amount that she could use to pay for scribing additional spells into her spellbook. Typically the way I've often seen this played out with other groups is that, you know, as long as you pay for the scribing costs, it's just assumed that in your travels at some point you've come across a spellbook and you just paid to scribe those spells into your spellbook. Right. Otherwise, you'd have to buy the spell in some way, shape, or form, like in the form of a scroll, and then pay the scribing cost to scribe that scroll into your spellbook. This is, again, the reason why I think like mages kind of get the shaft here, depending on the campaign. If you have a campaign or a group that doesn't have a lot of in terms of treasure, playing a wizard can be kind of expensive to do that. Okay, some other spells for you to take. What are some other spells that you...
There are specific things that I like. Hold on.
Okay, one thing that we could also do is talk in terms of what are... Because, again, wizards, masters of utility, right? That's what they're known as. So let's take a look at what we have here. So we have we have an offensive spell, we have a defensive spell, offense.
Is it really offense though? I thought it was more like a debilitating.
Well, it is a debilitating, but it's still offensive in nature. You're not gonna. There's very few situations that I would see that you could have a utility use or role-playing use of Ray of Enfeeblement. So, one popular one, floating disc. I mean, to help you carry stuff. There's also mount to give you a summonable creature to ride. There's some popular ones in that sense. You could also get Obscuring Mist, too.
That one, yes.
That's a good one for utility and defense. You can do another popular defensive one, Mirror Image. I think that's not the same thing that you're thinking of, but...
Wait, isn't... Okay. Identify?
You can get Identify. That is another option.
Which one is not level 1 or level 3?
I believe it's level 2. Yes, it's level 2.
Okay.
Yep.
It's been a while since I played.
It's fine. Yeah, that's still second level. Alright, so let's go back up. Scrolling up. Obscuring Mist, we took that.
Wow, we're getting old.
No.
Identify.
Okay, so we'll take Identify. If you want some more role-playing type spells, you could probably go with something like, I think Disguise Self is, first level spell. That's an option for you. Good role-playing effects there. You could also do Burning Hands, which is an area of effect damage spell.
Okay. Alright, so let's do Burning Hands.
No, I'm just offering suggestions,
No,
really.
Burning Hands is fine.
Okay. Burning Hands. There's also this one I found out not too long ago. I've always liked it. I think it's a cute little spell, Arcane Pockets. A little bag of holding for you, your character. Long duration, 1 hour per level, so that's nice. Okay. Doesn't hold an amazing amount, but it's definitely something that's noticeable. So in your case, for your wizard, it would be caster level 30 thanks to our magical knack trait. You could have Alarm too. That's a good role-playing spell. to protect the party at night when they camp out in the wilderness.
Cause fear.
Cause fear is a good one. However, at a certain point, you're going to run into problems because the one issue with cause fear is that it only impacts things that 5 or fewer hit dice. So very shortly into the campaign, you're going to be running into stuff that's more than that, and they're just going to be outright immune.
Alright. Let's keep going then.
Okay, so let's take a look. We have 2 more. Did you want Burning Hands?
Yeah.
Okay. I do know from personal experience, ear-piercing scream is another good one because of the way it works. It has the ability, it's a short-ranged spell, so we're looking at close range. It deals decent damage, nothing too amazing, but the big point of this is that it is a daze effect. Daze is a very powerful condition in Pathfinder, meaning that you can't do anything. No move actions, no standard actions, nothing for the duration. You're not considered flat-footed, but for the daze effect, you're essentially missing a turn. And the fact that this has a fortitude partial means that it is good against caster types. So typically where I've used this is as a counter caster mechanism, where I ready my wizard to use a readied action versus another spellcaster, and the trigger would be when they start casting a spell. What I would do is that I would use ear-piercing scream to not counter the spell, but to interrupt the spell casting. Because once I use this, it's going to hit, so they're going to take damage up to 5d6. They'd have to make a concentration check to avoid losing the spell because of the damage, but then they'd also have to make a fortitude save to avoid getting dazed. And if they fail either of those, they're going to lose the spell. So it's pretty effective as a counter caster mechanic. So that's why that's been a good favorite of mine. Okay, we got one more. Endure Elements is a good role-playing. Expeditious Retreat, also very good. That lets you really get the heck out of dodge when you need to. Featherfall is another good one. Although for your character, because we're doing the racial trait replacement, we're giving you that fly ability, so that's less effective for you.
Keep going down.
Okay. Hydraulic Push is another good combat one. We use that. That is a way to do a combat maneuver check against using your caster level and your key ability modifier. So it puts you on par with fighters in terms of doing combat maneuvers.
Alright, let's take it. Does not provoke attack of opportunity. That's nice.
You could also do, even though it may not be very strong, you could also do that wave shield too, as an immediate action to potentially
I'm not
mitigate.
feeling wave shield. I've got a shield.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, which one?
Go back.
Oh, hydraulic
Yeah,
push.
hydraulic push, yeah. It's late and we are old.
Okay, so we've selected all of Maya's spells now. Now these are
The
just
free ones.
the free ones. There's nothing stopping her from using some of her starting character wealth to pay the cost to scribe additional spells into her spellbook.
Which I intend to do.
which, yeah, is often the case. You want to have more options. Again, wizards are the masters of utility. Where your utility really shines is the ability to have lots of different spells. And again, thanks to her quick study exploit, she'll be able to swap those on the fly during a combat encounter. So from a spell standpoint, let's take a look at where we're at. We have quite a few cantrips memorized. We still haven't memorized 2 from the sorcerer side. We have access to all of them thanks to her wizard side. So in addition to her cantrips from her sorcerer side, she'll have a lot of cantrips memorized. She'll have 3, 5, up to 9 cantrips memorized a day. So again, lots of opportunities for utility with this kind of character. And she has sure casting from her sorcerer side as a first level, and then whatever she decides to memorize from her wizard side. Okay, so we have our spells now selected. We have our feats, traits. Let's do skills, right? So we have our skills. These are our skills that we can select from.
The answer is yes.
So we have 24 skill points to allocate, right? So where do you want to put those skills? Because you are character level 3, the most amount of ranks that you could put into a single spell skill is 3.
Alright,
so what suits your fancy?
Arcana is +3.
Okay, so we're starting off with Knowledge Arcana 3. Now, the way I typically write this to represent the modifier, I use parentheses. So we know that knowledge skills are int based. We know that her int modifier is +5. So we represent that here. And because this is a class skill, we have a +3 bonus for it being a trained class skill. Now I represent that with square brackets. Right? And then at that point, at this time, there's nothing else. So just by putting 3 ranks into Knowledge Arcana, we know that her Knowledge Arcana skill total bonus is +11. 3 + 5 + 3.
Knowledge Spellcraft?
Well, Spellcraft is the name of the...
Oh, okay.
It's not Knowledge Spellcraft.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and same thing, it's going to be the same, because I know that that's what she's going to do.
Yep.
Okay,
do I need to take fly or no?
So, fly, the way the skill works is that depending on what you're trying to do, because it's always funny like when players see their skills like fly and ride, like what do I actually use that for? Those skills are used for complex maneuvers, and swim is another example, right? Just doing simple stuff with that skill or that thing that doesn't necessarily require a check of any kind. Like, so for example, you don't need the ride skill to simply get on a horse and just walk casually down the road, right? The ride skill would come into play if you're trying to do something complex, like maybe make a sharp turn while galloping on a horse. That would require a ride check. Same thing with fly, right? Just flying at your base or at your fly speed, going in the same direction at the same pace, and there's nothing too weird about the sky, like no heavy winds or anything like that. You don't need a fly check to move in a basic sense. The fly skill would be relevant if you're trying to make sharp turns, or in this case, adjust the angle of altitude of ascent or descent greater than 45 degrees if you move more than 10 feet around. Then a fly check would come into play there. And your flying maneuverability, so in this case you're poor, it actually puts a penalty to your fly skill.
Alright, I'll make it easy. Knowledge planar.
Okay.
I mean, I do have ancestry, I would assume.
Knowledge planes.
Yes.
And I'm assuming the standard full 3?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about, we have spent now 9 points out of 21, we can still go for another 4 skills in total.
Let's put fly in there, just in case I do have to do something.
Okay, so fly. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head exactly. It's dex-based, I believe.
Yep.
But let's look it up and make sure that we're correct. So let's go to fly. It is dex-based. And so this is what I was talking about. So again, moving less than simple use case, you don't really need to make a fly check just to fly about town, right? It's a nice calm day, nothing's happening to you, you're not threatened in any way, shape, or form. Just flying about, no big deal. Where you need to start making checks is when you have some of these special actions. So you saw what I meant before. Trying to do a sharp turn while you're in the air. That's when you're starting getting into DC check territory. Okay. And this is where you also say, again, assuming that there's lots of winds involved, that reduces a check. Also, your fly capability, your maneuverability implies a check too. So because you're poor right now in terms of your flying capability, that's a -4 penalty to your fly skill. So it's good that you're putting some points into it because you're naturally taking a penalty here. So let's check your dex. Your dex is +1. It is a trained skill for you, so that's an extra +3. But because of your poor maneuverability, again, we're going to add in the fly. It's a -4. So any extra modifiers, typically what I've always done is I represented that with curly brackets. So right now, 3 + 1 + 3 -4, that is 3. So you got a fly skill of +3 right now.
Okay, so
And you have 3 more skills to pick.
I have cleaner.
You have a knowledge arcana, knowledge plane, spellcraft. Here are your, again, as a reminder, here are your skills overall. And again, that's not the full list. You could take the other ones, you're just not going to get the class bonus from them.
But in the beginning especially, I feel like it makes sense to do.
I mean, you could fill out the rest of them with knowledge skills too.
That's kind of what I want to do.
So like knowledge nature, knowledge dungeoneering.
I mean, I do want linguistics, so...
You could do linguistics too. So if you want to do linguistics, that'll give you a lot of different language skills to work with.
I mean, it's, linguistics.
Oops. Linguistics.
Yes. Can I just take the knowledge all skill and put everything in
No,
there?
there is no knowledge all. That just means that
I'm aware.
you have access to all of the sub-knowledge skills.
You wrote it counts, I'm taking.
No, that's actually copy and paste from what as it appears in the wizard entry.
Wonderful, so it's a skill.
See? Knowledge
Wizard-
all.
They said it, I'm taking it, knowledge all.
It's rules as written.
Yeah. I guess I could take religion.
You sound so excited to take that. So the knowledge religion skill is really...
Ability, maybe?
Hmm?
Let's take knowledge and ability.
Okay. That's a good role-playing skill. Did you want to do the full 3?
Yeah, why not?
So the knowledge religion skill can be helpful because in addition to identifying what religion is, right, it's used to assess monster vulnerabilities from things like the undead, right? So typically, like for example, yes, most people in general know that like a vampire is susceptible to things like bright lights or garlic or silver, that kind of typical fantasy stuff, right? But does your character actually know that, right? That's where the knowledge skills can come into play. So if you want, you have 1 skill left because you're at 18 points right now.
Okay. I mean, I could do 1, 1, and 1.
For the rest of the knowledge?
No, I don't. I don't want to do it that way. I really want that knowledge roll skill.
You're playing the wrong class to get like an amazing boost to all knowledge skills.
Arcanist would be the proper class.
No, an investigator would be.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's an archetype, Imperial Empiricist, that just has absolutely insane bonuses to knowledge checks, and they have their inspiration class feature. I mean, we're talking about they could hit the teens plus teens by like level 2 or 3. It's just absolutely nuts. It's a class skill that when you build it for like a skill monkey style, there's no way they're failing a knowledge check anytime soon.
But do they get magic?
Not all. There are some archetypes that do.
Casting magic.
Yeah, up to level 6. The
No.
Antiquitarian can do mage spells, I believe.
Up to level 6.
Up to level 6. Well, because they're a hybrid class. Like Arcanist is the hybrid class. Investigators are hybrids.
So I would not get the spell that I long for.
No, her favorite spell is Time Stop. She has yet to actually cast that in any campaign that we've ever been in.
I have cast it in campaigns before we played.
And then she woke up.
That is not cool, man. That is not cool.
All right, so we got one more skill. We're wrapping up soon. Anyways, it's we got about 15 minutes left in the stream.
Plus, it's a bit chilly in here because I'm naturally chilly.
It's 81 degrees in the office right now.
That fan is making me cold. Frankie, come here.
All right. So, anyways, let's continue going. One last skill.
Religion. I don't really want to take religion.
Okay, you could take. What about a crafting skill? Or praise. That's a good one because you need to assess the value of certain things.
Okay. What other knowledges are there besides engineering?
So let's check.
Yes. I guess a praise is fine. I guess.
It's always good to double check your work, right? So let's take a look at knowledge right there. So these are the different knowledge skills that you could take. If you're looking in terms of being able to assess monster vulnerabilities, the ones that you need to look at are Arcana,
I have that.
Dungeoneering,
Okay.
Nature, Planes,
Got that.
and Religion.
So we got those two. So let's do, I guess, nature. Or should I break it up and get some dungeoneering and nature?
You can do that because you have 3 points remaining, so you could do, let's say, 2 points in Dungeoneering, 1 point in each.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. So you could do 1 point in Religion, Dungeoneering, Nature.
Yeah.
Because that you'll still, because you have 1 point, you'll get the trained dip. Yep. So Religion, Knowledge, Dungeoneering, and Knowledge, Nature.
So dungeoneering is basically for Underdark?
Yeah, like being able to sense what direction you're heading in while you're completely underground, things like that. So let's do 1 + 5, your int modifier, and then +3 for the trained. That gives you +9, which isn't that bad for just a 1 point dip.
Yeah.
But that satisfies all 21 hit points. We got our 24 skill points, sorry.
Yes.
24 hit points, 21 skill points are now set. Our base attack bonus saves are set. We have to add in our modifiers to it. But we have our proficiencies, we have our class features, we have our exploits selected. We still need to pick one trait, but that's something that we could easily do offline. We have most of our Sorcerer Spells picked. We have our Wizard skills picked.
Items.
We are missing your languages, which again we could do that offline. It's just picking. You have a lot of languages.
Yes.
Because you have Common.
Elvish.
I'll give you Elvish because you're
Okay,
from that region, from an Elven region, so it makes sense.
Does Chiliac speak a different language? I assume.
people in Cheliax, the national language is Infernal.
Okay, fine. I assume that would be an option because we live relatively close.
Okay, so let's do languages, items. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, but I was gonna make a lot of items.
A few one trait, some spells left to pick. But for the most part, like, we've put all these notes together, and at this point, I really, start populating a PDF to share with, my group or whatever. Now, typically these days, I end up doing like a custom Excel spreadsheet to make the math a lot easier. But that's just my personal preference. But you could see how we did really all of this by hand, which is kind of a good learning experience in general to know how to build characters in this manner. Because again, you may not always have access to your preferred tools like Hero Lab. And again, if your campaign is doing something cool, special, like giving you unique abilities or unique items, sometimes those extra tools can't always support that very easily. So it's, again, always a good thing to know how to write these characters by hand. Okay. All right, so we have a few minutes left, and this is what we have left to do. So let me save that. What is your character name? That's one thing we never actually...
I keep forgetting. Amnesia.
Your character's name is Amnesia.
No, I had a character name, the original character that we made a while ago, and we lost it.
Yeah, we did the initial version of this build quite some time ago, and
we lost it.
I didn't manage to save the actual notepad notes for it.
Yeah. Can we come back to that?
Okay, I'll put it to do. Character name.
Yes, really. Okay, so so out of items, I'm going to make the Goggles of True Sight.
Okay, so for the items, so per the character creation rules for my campaign, starting level wealth for third level characters base is 3,000 gold, but I'm giving them an extra 500 to do what they see fit. So 3,500 gold pieces in total for their starting wealth. Again, for typical wizard classes, wizard characters, they might spend a portion on this on scribing spells into their spellbook. Again, I've always had a problem because that can get quite expensive for especially low level campaigns, low wealth campaigns too. That could be an issue, but 3,500 gold would give you the ability to also craft some items as well. So for example, one of her all-time favorite magical items.
Well, it's shoes and bags, or bags and shoes, whichever you prefer.
Let's take a look at a bag of holding, right?
I love that. I wish it came in a purse in this world.
I mean, we could just call it a purse of holding if you really wanted to do that.
No, I mean, I wish I physically had a purse
of
holding in this world.
So there's two flavors of a bag of holding. They come in minor, and then the next one is the standard type bag of holding.
So I would like a standard type bag of holding. How much?
Okay. So a standard, if we look at this, and for anyone who's never read this and learned how to craft magic items, there's a whole process involved with doing this, but in short, it's a spellcraft check in order to craft a magic item, right? The way you would make the spellcraft check is 5 plus the caster level listed in that magic item. So in this case, it's a spellcraft check of 14. If we look at Maya's skills, she already has a spellcraft of plus 11, so that's pretty good. She could easily just take 10 on the check and succeed it. So DC wise, she's perfectly capable of making this. But what does she actually need from a requirement standpoint, right? Well, we need to look at the bottom of the entry here in order to understand that. So to make this bag of holding, these are the requirements. Okay. Now, the only hard requirement that she absolutely must have is this craft wondrous item, feat, right? When it comes to crafting objects in Pathfinder, the hard requirement, you absolutely have to have it, or at least someone on the crafting team has to have it, is that crafting feat, right? But fortunately, that's not the issue for us for here because Maya has that. She took that as her 3rd level feat. Anything else that is listed here is actually optional. For every extra requirement that you do not meet, the spellcraft DC to make this item goes up by 5 points. So what this is saying here is that she needs to have the ability to cast the spell Secret Chest. Well, at this time, she doesn't, right? So because she can't meet that requirement, the spell DC to craft this goes up by 5. So originally it was DC 14 in order to craft that spell or to craft this item. It's now DC 19. So a little bit more trickier to craft this. But again, because of the take 10 rule, she could easily just take 10 and still succeed. Okay? But assuming that she meets all of those requirements, she then needs to figure out the cost based off the type of bag that she wants to make. So a type 1, she'll need to pay 1,250 gold in order for that. And here's the type 1 effects. It's a 15-pound bag, but it holds up to 250 pounds.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I do anything to get my intelligence up? But I don't think I have enough to put a thing on.
So you do have the ability boosting magic items. So like the headbands of intellect. Those are quite pricey at this time.
Don't they have a miter or no?
The cheapest one is out of your range right now. So if we look at headbands. That's what Maya's referring to. The headband of vast intelligence.
I wish this world came with a headband list.
Right. So again, let's try to figure this out. Caster level 8th. So 8 plus 5 for the base DC to craft this item. She meets the craft wondrous item requirement. She can't cast Fox's Cunning though, so 8 plus 5, so that's 13 base. She can't cast it. Fox's Cunning, that spellcraft DC 18 in order to craft it for her. But again, it's the cost here. So you could get both. But then you only have 250 gold for everything else, including your basic provisions.
You have a lot. Dang it, I don't have a high enough charisma to get some to buy me provisions. No, I'm kidding. Dang it. Dang it.
So we'll do the 1,200 gold pieces for crafting a bag of holding type 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
how much do shoes cost?
Well, what kind of shoes are you looking for?
Striding? Or
That's expensive. That is, I think at least base is 400. But let's take a look. We always check our work.
Mm-hmm.
So boots of striding. Oh yeah, that's way too much.
Oh. What does Elvenkind do?
Yeah, 27. That's almost all of your gold right now just to increase your base speed by 10.
Never mind.
I think the Elvenkind, that's cheaper, but I don't think it's really going to do anything amazing for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's plus 5 acrobatics check, which you don't really have anything.
Because I can fly.
That's not going to apply to this.
Okay.
Because it's an acrobatics check, it's not a fly check.
Okay. Alright, well I'm not a thief, so I guess I don't need it for a monk. What's feather stuff?
Well, we'll figure it out, Moogle. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do that. Oh, so like that they could hear. Yeah, so there is a way that you can do that. So, I will be able to hear you on Discord, but you're not transmitted in the stream. Yeah, there's a way to do that. I'll show you how to do that later on this week. Yeah.
Okay, so so should I get the book I want or no? The spell book or?
So the Blessed book, and we're about to wrap up for the night anyways, but so that Blessed book is the one. What am I doing? Wondrous items. So here's the book that Maya really likes, and it's available for purchase as an in-app purchase. I'm kidding.
How much to make it?
No, you're not making this because this is expensive. I told you this is pricey.
Oh, come on.
So, but this is the book that I was talking about, right? This is a popular one for wizards because it's 1,000 pages of spell book, and each spell, I think, or maybe I I might have been thinking about another item. Okay, so it's not one spell level, one page per spell. That might have been a house rule that I made a while ago. But this is a spell book that is 1,000 pages. Okay, but that's it. You're paying an exorbitant price for
Plus,
1,000.
It's also very small, so you can carry it everywhere.
No, it's not. It's the same size, 12 inches tall, 8 inches wide, 1 inch thick.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's just that there's 1,000 pages as opposed to a standard spell book. Let's look at a standard spell book real quick. Spell book.
Oh, it's past the midnight already.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna wrap it up in a little bit.
Okay.
But a standard spell book, if we look at that entry for that, with the 400 ads that I'm being blasted with, so a standard spell book is 100 pages, and each spell takes up 1 spell per page level. Right, and that spellbook costs 15 gold each. Yeah, so a third level spell takes up 3 pages to describe it. So that's the, again, I haven't written it into the rules for this campaign, but typically each spellbook is £3. But anyways, typically I adjust the rules for that in my camp. But anyways, that's overall. Let's recap real quick what we've done tonight. We've made this character build, which is an unlimited healing wizard. Again, the base part of that character build is that first level dip in cross-blooded sorcerer. Thanks to that Phoenix bloodline, thanks to the elemental bloodline, or Ifrit if you want, you get that ability to convert any energy spell into fire damage, and then convert that fire damage into half healing. That's the core aspect of the build. Now, you could certainly take that in several directions. We talked about you going the cleric route and doing that with divine spells, but it's less effective because clerics naturally have easy access to great healing. But typically for arcane casters, you can go with the original from the poster of this, which is, I forget the Fits with Farseer on Reddit, who originally posted this build that I started to work with. She went the Arcanist route, so with the first level dip and then full Arcanist. After that, we went the Exploiter Wizard route to make sure that our level progression wasn't too impacted by that. But your mileage may vary. Okay, but other than that, I had fun doing this. I hope you had fun doing this. I hope you had fun watching. Hope you learned something too, because it's always fun to talk about crazy character builds and see what we can do with it. Always good to learn something new. And if this was really fun, we might do this on a regular once in a while basis, where we might pick a crazy build and like see what we can do with it. You know, because again, the Pathfinder subreddit is a great place, a great resource to find a number of these unique, interesting builds. I remember reading one not too long ago about a gunslinger build, where you're not talking about the gunslinger class, we're talking about a halfling class that is very, very powerful at literally slinging guns at his opponents and doing quite an impressive amount of damage with such a build too. So a fun, humorous build was on there not too long ago. Other resources that we found very helpful when it comes to just D&D in general. Again, Reddit's an amazing resource. One that I find really, really cool lately is Reasonable Fantasy, the subreddit dedicated to fantasy art that is not overly sexualized, because that's always a criticism that we sometimes see, that you have very high AC armor for some of your female characters, where the more skin is exposed, the higher the armor class. But this is a great subreddit
level 20?
where you have lots of art.
Your skin disappears?
Or again, Reasonable Fantasy. So that's a great resource. You have AON PRD, you have the D20 Pathfinder subreddit, you have the D20 Pathfinder SRD website, and the Pathfinder RPG subreddit as a whole. But other than that, like I said, I think that's enough for tonight. We have our character. We only have a few other things to finish up on, but it now is a matter of getting this into a PDF, which I'll post to the Twitter account too, Mr. Paladin Sir on Twitter, so you could see the results of what the character sheet ends up looking like when I'm fully done with it. Okay, but other than that,
I will trade you your favorite dinner for a +2.
No.
Your
Anyways,
favorite dinner.
we'll be back on Thursday with our Elden Ring stream. So we'll be back doing single player action there. And then Friday stream, we don't know what we're playing, but probably Elden Ring.
I would really enjoy that, yes.
Yeah, so we'll probably continue with Elden Ring because Maya's having a blast watching me play it.
Yeah.
But other than that, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining us, and stay safe, be wholesome, happy gaming, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.